It's lovely to see so many people there, and also give me the opportunity to share some of the things and ideas that we've had about autism over a long period of time. Next one, please, Chris. Next. Thank you. Autism and Inclusion was a title I saw about 20 years ago, and I hope that we are now better equipped to understand autism and to be able to adapt our ideas and meet their needs. Next one, please.
It's very slow at doing this. Come on, Asma.
Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects 1 in 100 people. It's a lifelong condition, and scientists believe that both genes and environment are involved in the development of ASC. There are 102 genes that are affected, and in the 40 years I've been working within autism, I've never met two people the same. And as they say, when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Okay. The genes will affect brain development and brain function. Okay, next, please. Next, sorry, Chris. Okay. All of us are aware of the triad of impairment and the 3 main areas that are affected. Whoops, what have we got now? Chris, could you click, please?
Sorry, there's been a bit of a problem with trying to admit as well, so yeah, sorry. A nightmare here. Don't know why it's been so difficult.
Give me autism any day, but
yeah. Okay.
Are we there?
Okay.
Okay. The triad is social interaction, social communication, social imagination. These are the 3 main areas that we're aware of that affect autism. We're going to learn a little bit more as we go on. Okay, move us on. Okay. Also take into our minds the theory of mind, Baron-Cohen.
Or any other person.
Sorry? Okay. This is where young people are unable to put themselves in other people's shoes and they have difficulty understanding the difference between fact and fiction. This is often a problem with their gaming, and they have a different perception of different situations to what possibly had happened. Okay, next one. Okay, just quickly let you read through. Some of the strategies we use towards theory of mind are teaching feelings and emotions and awareness of others. Important to do role play and rehearse situations. Okay, next one. Autism also affects the range, and the range being cognitive and emotional. Young people with autism often have very spiky profiles. The cognitive and emotional don't often match. Autism can affect from severe learning difficulties to grammar school level, and emotional levels are very different too. They go from identifying self, being able to manage self, identifying others' emotions, and being able to help and support others. We often say, how do you think that will make Tom feel? Well, if they haven't left level 1, they've got no idea about how it makes Tom feel. So always be aware that their emotional level would be much lower than cognitive. Not always, but could possibly be. But it's something to take into consideration. Okay, next one. Chris, sorry. Right. We understand the areas that affected and taken into account cognitive and also emotional difficulties. And this is where it gets a little more complex when we get different conditions also added to the autism, with anxiety, Tourette syndrome, obsessive compulsive, low mood, ADHD, eating disorders, self-harming, trauma, attachment disorder, and PDA, pathological demand avoidance. These conditions obviously develop through the young person's life. Next one, please. I'm going to just concentrate on the two areas today, looking at language and anxiety and the difficulties that we see in the classroom. Yes, could you press? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm sure you've all seen this in the classroom, affecting friendships, responding appropriately to questions, generating ideas, understanding abstract concepts. And when Em is talking to you after myself, that she will explain a little bit more about this, about starting work, continuing and improving, fine motor skills, concentration, organisation, following verbal instructions, taking control, and work avoidance. These are all areas that we're going to touch on in the next few slides. Thank you, Chris. Some of the signs and symptoms of language difficulties in autism are they often have a delay in speaking. Often children don't speak before the age of 2, or they are speaking before the age of 2. It's neither one nor another. They will use abnormal tone of voice, odd rhythms or pitch. They will often repeat words and fake phrases and often have echolalia, therefore picking up phrases that we use on a daily basis and hopefully getting them in the right place. That will be explained later in a minute also. They have trouble starting conversations, and they often don't understand complex sentences or instructions. They take things literally, missing out on humour, irony and sarcasm. Next one, please, Chris. Okay, so this is how it all works, really. We take in information from sounds and words, from pictures and written word. As you can see, in the classroom, when we give an instruction, we often give it verbally, and you can see that it can drop right down to speech without actually going into the semantics, which is where we get the meaning and the understanding, the cognitive ability. So we are often given things that answers that aren't relevant. We often find that instructions aren't followed through, and that's because we haven't allowed it to go into the semantics. The same with the written word. Hyperlexic children that can read a whole book, and in fact when you ask them about the story they can't tell you anything, or they can't write any sentences about it. Again, you can see that it can drop straight down from literacy to writing without the semantics. So it's really, really important that we put semantics into the input of the young person using pictures and objects. Even if you think they're cognitively bright, if they're highly anxious, then they won't be able to actually listen to the word. It's always important that you revert to symbol, pictures or objects. Okay, thank you. Anxiety, of course, is a huge difficulty with ASC, and children with ASC will experience greater anxiety in their daily life than you or I. Okay, can you just, next one? Okay. One of the main areas is sensory overload. which will often cause the young person to become overwhelmed. Oops, sorry, it's my light popping out. Anxiety in school is often they will feel they're victims. They have a fear of failure. They have a difficulty with when to start, how long it's going to be, when it's going to end, what's expected. Imi's going to explain a little bit more about strategies to do in this. Whoops, can you go back, please? But this is where it's important to use task schedules and classroom schedules and work schedules. Okay. Difficulties with new staff appearing, that we suddenly become unpredictable. This raises the anxiety. Language that's used, not everybody understands the basic language that we use in the classroom. It's always useful to check it out with keywords on a whiteboard to see if they're actually listening and understanding what you're talking about. Okay. Their perception of situations might be different from what's actually happening. Okay, next one. Feeling highly anxious most of the time is emotionally exhausting, and this is what you see. You see hyper alertness, constant vigilance, racing thoughts, verbal flow, and intolerance of others, sleep disorders, and stress-related medical conditions. With hyper alertness, we often sit them at the front of the class so we can keep an eye, but in fact sitting them at the back so they can see absolutely everything that's going on will reduce some of the anxiety. If they have racing thoughts in their head, they have to let it out. This will either be by calling out or wanting to do other things that they're interested in. Give them a piece of paper to scribble on and get their ideas down beside them. And verbal flow, so keen to answer every question with a hand up. Give them a whiteboard, tell them you're really interested in what they've got to say. Write it down and we can talk about it later on. Give you a chance to get in with the lesson. Sleep disorders is really important. A lot of our young people have difficulty with sleep disorders, and it's important that you work with parents on schedules, helping them to regulate some periods of sleep during the night. Okay, thank you. Next one. There's two types of strategies our young people have. Destructive, they're the ones we often see. Excessive control, routines and rituals, meltdowns, unrealistic target setting, self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, oppositional defiance disorder, and PDA. With the last two, use choices and not demands or telling them what to do. We hope to turn it around into constructive ones and teach them the constructive ways of coping their anxiety, using physical activity, relaxation, special interests. Time with animals is really important, and times outside. Time with a trusted person, perhaps talk time. Thinking about an alternative curriculum or an alternative environment which may involve outside resources. Thinking about diet and nutrition, and again, sleep, really important. Okay, next one, please. It's just some of our disruptive strategies. We call them bucket overloads. We always imagine a young person with a bucket on their head, and during the day this fills up. You and I have got holes in our buckets, and we naturally let the anxiety release itself. We do that with breaks, chats to friends, coffees. But these young people, they can't do that. They need to offload frequently through the day. Okay, next one. So we put in, during the day, it's really useful to put in some exercise, running, walking, boxing, relaxation, meditation, yoga, listening to music, breathing exercises, time in and positive time out, and that's positive time in as well. Walk and talk activities, patterns, especially maths, creative activities, knitting, carpentry and sewing. Okay, and also feed into their interests, as these are often thought blockers if they don't become addictive. Okay, next one please. Okay. Remember, pupils who have been unable to empty their buckets during the day, they will be exhausted, and we'll often see children absolutely exhausted by lunchtime. If you haven't allowed that bucket to offload, they will become challenging. They're more likely to melt down at home. It's important to give strategies to mum to cope with the afternoons. They will also become inaccessible. Okay, next one. If the anxiety is not identified or managed, they can present as having negative thoughts, low self-esteem, low confidence, depression, self-harming, school refusing, unable to sit exams, or suicidal. Next one. Okay, strategies that we have in place are, click please do, you'll have to click down. Chris, sorry. Having a trusted person and building a relationship, using positive language, tell them how well they've done, not what they haven't done. Using PORIC, and this will be explained by Imi in the next slides. Teach. Visuals, objects, symbol, keywords, PECs, social stories, personalised timetables, emotional regulation, flexi-schooling, schedules, zones of regulation. Use symbol or word-based visual timetables and word and symbol-based schedules. Personalised timetables and parallel teaching. That's positive time in the classroom and then positive time out. Comic strip conversations, talking maths, clear, concise, step-by-step instructions, semantic word web approach, and alternative communication systems. Next one. Okay. That's the end of this part of it. I'm going to